Good afternoon. How are you? This is just messing around with me. Okay. Hi, good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, whatever the time it is that you actually watching this recording. Today I'm gonna go through the webinar series that we discussed yesterday on the Zoom call, but unfortunately I didn't record, or my computer didn't record it. However, I'm gonna go through the presentation, and I'm also gonna go through the questions that were asked by Nicola, because they are very useful for anyone who would like to take part of this presentation. So today we are talking all nutrition basics, and yes, so as we're talking about nutrition, we're gonna discuss macronutrients. And what is macronutrients? So macronutrients is basically the food that we eat, and this food is divided into three different groups. So we have the carbohydrates, the fats, and the protein. We will discuss each of these on an individual webinar. So today I decided to start with protein, which is, in my opinion, the most important carbohydrate when it comes to wanting to improve your body composition, or when it comes to starting any strength kind of program. And as well is one of the macronutrients that people underestimate the most, and especially females struggle to hit the right numbers on a daily basis. Now, as I mentioned before, let's start with the protein, which is the top of the macronutrients. Most of us are aware that protein is an important in our diet. Proteins are made up of amino acids, which are the building blocks of the tissues in your body, including muscles, nails, hair, and more. Without adequate amount of protein, your tissues will not grow correctly, and this will cause health issues. The main benefits of protein is the impact this has on your body's growth and maintenance. For example, if you are actively turning to build muscle, protein is essential, and it will help to maintain your muscle mass while also helping to repair your muscle. So in here on this graphic, you can observe how an actual muscle looks from inside, and you can see that every single one of these lines then gets divided into small little fibers, and those fibers are the amino acids that are then building up those muscles, and those are the same fibers that you tend to break down when you do any sort of strength or endurance training, and that's why you feel the DOMS next day when you normally train, and that is basically because your body has breaking down those fibers, and your body is now trying to repair those fibers. But if we don't provide the body with enough protein for those fibers to be repaired, first you can cause yourself an injury because you're not recovering properly, and second, you obviously will not reach your goal, which is building lean muscle mass, which for the body is a lot of work to do. So therefore, we need to back this process up with some protein, or enough protein. So that's why I highlight the importance of it. Aside from the growth and maintenance, there are countless other benefits of protein, including transporting and supporting nutrients around our body, keeping you feeling fuller for longer, and also boosting your immune system. Now, this is a key point here, keeping you fuller for longer. So we all know that when we decide to start a body recomposition journey, which is basically just like burning fat and getting lean muscle, One of the things that people struggle the most when it comes to obviously cutting down the calories intake, especially people who is under losing body fat journey, which is the majority of people. One of the issues that they face the most is that they feel very hungry during the day, and the reason behind this is because perhaps you might not be filling yourself enough with protein sources. And just imagine a day that you have, as for lunch you have a big plate of pasta, so you feel full after eating the pasta, but 30 minutes later you feel really sluggish, and about an hour or two later you already feel hungry even though your pasta was quite big. If instead of this plate of big pasta, we then have still some pasta, but we add some kind of protein, I don't know, tuna, minced beef, or any sort of protein that you would like to add to this pasta, some chicken, whatever, then you will experience that you will not have the crash from the carbs not being supported with protein, and you will also feel that this meal will take you through the whole afternoon until your next meal is due. So that means that you will be less tempted to snack in the afternoon when normally you have an energy drop, which is normal to have in the afternoons. But if you have been fueling your body properly from the morning until the afternoon with enough protein and obviously lots of vegetables and carbs as well, you will notice that your temptations to binge on maybe refined sugars that are not ideal in our process of wanting to change the body. You will feel that by increasing the protein intake, you will feel fuller for longer, and this is a fact. Why? Because the body will take longer to break down the protein than what it takes to break down carbs and fats. So that means that your body will be working on digesting that protein a little bit longer than what it will be to digest the carbs and the fats, and that is what keeps you fuller for longer. Just because your body is working on digesting that food, so it doesn't have time to think, I do want more food. So that is important, as well as obviously nowadays everyone is really aware of having a very strong immune system. So the reason why our immune system gets boosted when we have enough protein is because the proteins they have a lot of nutrients that they carry within them, and there are nutrients that our immune system needs in order to get stronger and obviously do the job, which is to defend our body from whatever threat we have coming up. Now, good sources of high quality rich food proteins. This is something that I'm gonna briefly name because I have shared with you countless kind of documents of the different types of protein, where you can get them. You don't have to be there is no limitation, even if you have a different or a specific diet type, like if you are vegetarian or if you are vegan. So if we were to look at the different sources of protein, of course the main or the full protein sources will be the animal base. And when I say full protein sources, those will be the proteins that have the full amino acid brain chain that will support you with all the essential amino acids, which are amino acids that our body needs but our body does not produce. So it's amino acids that we get from the foods, and that's why it's important that we consume the protein, because that is where you can actually find those amino acids. Now we have two types of protein, animal protein. We have lean protein and we have fatty proteins. So when choosing your proteins, you need to bear this in mind depending on what your goal is at the end of the day. But I will normally choose like I would say 80% of my day I will choose lean cuts of protein. In that case, for example, white fish will be chicken breast, will be turkey, minced turkey, egg whites, um, and many others that I don't have it on the top of my head. And then we have the fatty cuts of protein. That will be something like a ribeye or like fatty cuts. On fish we have omega 3, sorry, salmon, which is rich on omega 3s. Now I want you to understand something. The fat on the fish, the omega 3 fats, they're not bad fats. They are actually very good fats, and they actually help you with inflammation. They help you to actually contra like they help you to improve cholesterol issues if you already have cholesterol issues, and they will help you as well to prevent any injury in your joints, or to recover your joints, especially when you do strength training. When it comes to meat, the fatty cuts of meat, I wouldn't say that they are less good, but you need to be very careful when consuming red meat, because when consuming, I'm not saying that red meat is bad. In fact, you need to eat at least twice a week red meat, ideally. But what I'm saying is, be conscious that the red meats, depending on the cuts, they can be full. They can be packed with a lot of fats, and that means that the calorie the total calories that you have in from that meat is gonna be higher than if you have a leaner cut, like means 5% means, or just like leaner cuts of meats. Then we have dairy products, which dairy, back in the days when we didn't have any protein powders or any protein bars or any of that, the bodybuilder guys used to literally use or get most of their post-workout protein from just pure milk and um, and cheese and all the obviously dairy products. Now the problem with dairy products is that nowadays more and more people has become intolerant to lactose, which is a sugar and a protein as well, part of the dairy. And what happened with this is that if you are intolerant to this type of protein or this lactose, you then will, it's better for you not to have them in your diet, because that will cause inflammation, and that means that you will not be able to digest it, and that will gives you a lot of distress on your gastrointestinal. So the same as poultry, there is a lot of people nowadays that are becoming intolerant to poultry, and that has a lot to do with the way the animals have been fed, um, and the way that the kind of like the industry or the meat industry works nowadays, which is not as clean as it was once in a while. But then this will be down to you to kind of find out what are those foods that are actually making you feel like you are a little bit more gassy than normal 2 hours after the consumption. And if you do feel any distress in your gastrointestinal system, then it is an indication that you're having an intolerance. And in that case, we will touch base on this on another webinar. One thing that I forgot to mention is that today we will be touching protein, but on a very basic level. There are more advanced, I will come up with a more advanced protein webinar, but this one, because it's targeted to people who is in lockdown, and also because it's the first time that we're doing a train with Stella, I wanted to start from the very basics, so it's clear for everyone at any given level. Then we have the non-complete protein, which are beans, nuts and seeds, tofu, and soy products. That will be for vegetarians and for vegans. One thing to bear in mind is that if you are either vegetarian or vegan, then for you it's going to be a little bit more challenging to be able to hit your protein intake, and that's why many times it's advised to complement your diet with protein powders, which I will talk about in the next slide. But one thing that I wanted to point out in here is if you are taking most of your protein from beans, you need to make sure that you take into account that the protein percentage in beans is actually very low. Beans are mainly carbohydrates that have some protein content on it, the same as seeds and nuts, which are mainly fats who have some protein on it. So why is this important? It is important because if you were to have a complete plate in which you have your protein source, your carb source, and your fat source, and then you take that your beans are gonna be your protein source, but then you have potatoes, and then let's say you have some avocado, then you will end up with way too much carbs on a radio with comparison with the protein. So this is when you need to become wiser when it comes to choose your protein choices. But then I guess at some point I will do more in-depth webinar about protein for vegetarians and vegans, since it's a trend that is getting a lot of attraction at the moment, and it's a trend that I am not very familiar with because I have been eating meat all my life, and I don't think I will ever stop eating meat. I respect people who does it, but I literally don't feel like my nutrition is complete if I don't have my portion of protein on my meal. But again, that is my take on it. There are a lot of my friends on the fitness industry who became vegan, and they managed to get their nutrition needs just by having a little bit more time to study what are the protein sources that best suit them, and what is the best time to eat each kind of a protein for what they need. But one thing that I wanted to make clear is that although beans, seeds, and nuts are classified as source of protein, in reality they will have more either carbs or fats content than protein, and this is really really important for you to bear in mind. So I will share with you this presentation on a keyboard anyway, so you have all the different sources of protein, and I also shared with you already a shopping list in which you have even a more extended classification of lean proteins, fat proteins, and proteins that we should avoid or consume less. So now if we move to the next slide, this is what I was mentioning. Do I really need to use protein shakes and bar? Sorry, something just happened here. That's it. So do I really need to use protein powders, shakes, and bars? So once again, you will find out as you are new to your fitness journey, you might think that this that I'm telling you today is the last truth or is the rule, but I have been long enough in the fitness industry only to find out that there are trends that come and go, and there are beliefs that get then demystified long after, and this is one of them. So it was a time in which people used to believe that consuming protein powders was detrimental for your health, especially for your kidneys and your liver functions, which is it has been demystified. However, I will clarify that if you are someone who have preconditions with your kidney functions or your liver functions, you should definitely ask a doctor before implementing any supplement or any any extra any extra supplement within your diet. So in most cases, consuming the right balance of whole foods each day will provide you with enough protein and nutrients you need, negating the need from protein supplements. However, you might benefit from supplements if you are a teenager who is growing and exercising a lot, an adult that switched to vegan diet, so someone that eliminated completely the meat, the chicken, fish, and dairy products and eggs, an older adult that struggles to eat a lot of food in a day. So supplementing with protein will be a good way to boost up that protein intake, especially because when you are older, you lose your ability to maintain and gain lean muscle mass. So therefore, your protein consumption has to be considerable in order to prevent losing muscle mass and that causing you like greater health problems. And then obviously you need to consume protein powders if you are currently starting a regular workout program. And I say obviously because as much as females concerned, because I only treat with females, as much as or the more experience that I have with females, the more I realize that is a common factor for all females to by default not be very attractive to protein consumption but be overly attracted over carbohydrate consumption. And it's just the way that our body make us crave this type of foods, because obviously carbs will generate serotonin and dopamine, and depending on the week of our cycle we might need more carbs than other weeks. However, that does not make the proteins less important than the carbohydrates at any point, and it also doesn't make the carbohydrates bad. As I'm always saying, you need a balance of every macronutrient in your diet. Now, how much protein do I need? There are two ways of calculating how much protein do you need, but because this is the basic webinar on protein, I'm just gonna go with the fastest and the easiest way to kind of roughly calculate how much protein do you need, and that is based on your activity level. So if you are someone that is not active at all, the minimum needs that you require is 8 grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight, which means that if you are someone that is 165 pounds, that equals 75 kilograms, you will need 60 grams of protein minimum per day, just for your body to be able to complete or to be able to just do the normal functions on your body. And that's taking for granted that you are someone sedentary, someone that doesn't walk or do any exercise at all. Now, as the exercise increase, the demand of protein will increase, because then we will need more of this protein in order to recover from whatever activity we are putting our bodies into, as well as recovering, as I said, and gaining muscle mass or strength, which is the final goal. Or if you started any new training journey, that's what you want to do at the end of the day. You want to get stronger, you want to lean muscle mass, and you want to burn or lose fat. And in order to do so, you need to make sure that you have enough protein within your diet. So if we move to the next group, that will be the group of people who participate on activities like running, cycling, or swimming on a regular basis, consuming 1.2 to 1.4 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, which translates to zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.6 grams of protein per pound of your body weight. So if we look at the example again, we have this person that weighs 75 grams, and I'm gonna go for the high end of protein, which is 1.4. That means that this person should require around 105 grams of protein in order to first be able to perform this level of intensity on a regular basis, and second, to be able to recover and get the fiber muscles repaired from that activity that you started. And third, we have people who practice strength training, and that will be all of us, because although in here they are mentioning like the top end of the strength, which is powerlifting, it all depends, or is all relevant, or is all sorry is all like, although you might not be a power lifter, but if you were someone who never did exercise and then you started a new strength routine, the your level is the same level that any power lifter will have at an elite level. Why? Because your body is not used to that level of training or that intensity of training. Therefore, it needs enough protein to support that training, to recover from that training, and then to be able, on top of that, to build some muscle mass that it then is gonna make you stronger and keep going on with this on and on and on and on. What I'm saying with this is, it doesn't mean that because you train today, then you're making sure that you're hitting your protein today. But if you didn't train tomorrow, then you're not hitting the protein because you don't train. No, that's not the right approach. You will need to be consistent with this protein intake throughout every day of the week, because we need the protein the day that we train, and we also need the protein the day that we're recovering, just to make sure that our hardly work muscle mass stay protected, stays there, and it doesn't get used as a source of energy for any other activities. Top tips to increase your protein intake. I know it's easier said than done, but I think it's clear. So, reducing the amount of processed carbohydrates you consume from foods such as pastry, cakes, pizza, cookies, and chips. Replace them with fish, beans, nuts, seeds, pea, chicken, low-fat dairy, and soy or tofu products. Snacks on nuts, seeds instead of chips. Replace baked desserts with Greek yogurt, or swap our slices of pizza by grilled chicken breasts and side beans. Now, again, as I said, it's easier said than done, and this is the importance of you having meals spread throughout your day, so you are never in a position in which you find yourself starving, because when you find yourself starving, then you're more likely to reach for this high calorie and high sugar high calorie dense food and high sugar dense food as well, instead of reaching for smarter snacks that are not only gonna support you with your body getting in a better shape, your health getting in a better condition as well, but also are gonna support your mental well-being and your overall well-being. Now, when it comes to snacking on nuts or buying beans from tin, just make sure that you don't buy them the ones that come salty, because there is no need to add extra salt on these snacks if we consume enough salt during the day. I also want to make clear that when we do strength training, because sodium has also been another one of the products that has been demonized by the health industry in a way that they make you believe that if you eat a lot of sodium you will retain a lot of water, which is true, but also they keep on telling you to drink plenty of water, and if you only drink plenty of water but you don't have enough sodium or minerals or electrolytes, which is sodium at the end of the day, to retain this water that you're drinking, you're only gonna end up flushing out all the minerals that your body requires inside through the urine. So make sure that when you increase the protein, you will also increase your water intake, and you will also increase your fiber intake, that is going to help you to digest the protein easier. Now, we got to the Q&A questions, and yesterday we have two questions very important from Nicola, which I'm gonna reproduce in this recording. But before we go to the Q&As, I also wanted to tell you something about the protein that I forgot to add in here, and is the thermogenic effect that the protein has. Is the thermogenic effects that the protein has in our body. And that means that when you eat protein, because it's so hard, the protein is hard for the body to digest, then it means that 30% of the energy or 30% of the calories consumed by protein will be used only to break down that protein for it to be able to be digested and and consume, for it to be digested and break down. Sorry, that was the word I was looking for. Which means that if you add protein on every meal, which is what I recommend to all my clients, you are by default increasing the metabolic effect on your body, which translates to you having a faster or more awake, more responsive metabolism, which is what we want at the end of the day. That's why you find that most of the diets for weight loss are very high in protein. Why? Because they are looking to comply with three main purposes. One, that you're gonna hit your protein intake, and therefore you're gonna be fuller, you're gonna feel fuller for longer, and you're gonna have less space in your stomach to fill it up with cakes and sugary stuff. Second, you are gonna activate your metabolism, because every time you eat protein with your meals, you are also forcing your body to spend some of its own energy to break down these meals. And third, because it will obviously help you to reach your weight loss much faster, if as suppose of a diet that lacks some protein. So all I want to say is that protein should be for you since the moment you decide to start your fitness journey. Protein should be for you the one thing that you should always have in your meal or in your plate. Like whenever I am at home, the way I make my plate, I always select the protein, and then I select what goes around the protein. So the carbs, the greens, and the fats, but the protein for me is like the main part of my plate. When I go on holidays, for instance, and I know that I'm not gonna have much control over the foods I'm gonna be eating, what I do whenever I'm in a restaurant or something, I always try to look for the plate who will have more protein out of all the different options, so I make sure I have enough protein before trying to indulge in other plates that are still very palatable, and of course I want to try them, but I also want to make sure that I'm not overeating on food that in reality is not doing anything for my end goal. One thing that I have also to say is that whenever you set up yourself a goal, you should be asking yourself every day, with every action that you take, if this action goes aligned with your end goal. Am I is having this full cake and this full tub of ice cream aligned with my getting stronger goals? Perhaps it's not. You can have some cake, you can have some ice cream, but make sure that you have your protein intake hitting on the day. Okay. Now, the two questions that were asked, one were, the first one was, I don't remember the first one, but I remember the second one. I'm sorry. So the second one was from Nicola, and she was asking if it was possible to eat too much protein. So this is actually a really good question, because yes, there is actually the option of eating too much protein, and that option is also not good. So the same way as I always said, everything is about balance. So the same bad that you do by not eating well, not the same, but it's almost as bad not eating enough protein as it is to eat a lot of protein. So now we have clear that not eating enough protein will stop your progress on your fitness journey, whatever it is. It doesn't matter if it's body fat loss, if it's muscle mass, getting muscle mass, if it's body composition, if it's getting stronger. For any of those, you need the protein. If you don't have enough, you then will not be recovering properly, and you will be more prone to injuries and having problems with your immune disease. And also, we have the other side of the coin, in which we eat a lot of protein. And when we do eat more protein that we actually need, and that's why it's very specific, the guidance as to what do you need depending on how much activity do you do, is because there is also a threshold in which your body, once you reach that threshold, for example, I currently weigh 55 kg, and my currently protein intake is 55. So 120, sorry. So 55 times 2.2 equals 120. So I am currently having 2 grams of protein per kilogram of my body weight. Now, why is it 2? And I'm kind of hitting like the highest end, because I train a lot very often during the week, and my training sessions, they are very high in volume. So in order for me to be able to first do the session, second keep getting stronger, and third recover from the session, I need enough protein. However, so in the past, because I have been in the industry for too long, and before I educated myself on nutrition, I used to believe that the more protein that you have, the better, the stronger you will get, the leaner you will get, blah, blah, blah. However, that was not the case. And I end up eating way too much protein for way too long time. And that caused me a lot of problems with my digestion tract. So I developed IBS, which IBS is related to stress as well. But eating a lot of protein is kind of inducing some sort of stress to the body. As I explained before, breaking down the protein for the body is not as easy as it is breaking down carbs or fats. So when you already reach the threshold, for example, my threshold is 120, whatever you eat on top of that, your body is not going to be able to digest it, and it's kind of energy or calories that get wasted. And worse, if you are not eating enough carbs, because you think that it's better to eat a lot of protein, and your protein is taking the majority of the calorie intake of your daily calorie allowance, then you will feel that the energy that you get from the protein is not the same energy that you will get from carbs and fats. So if you were to look at the calorie content on protein, 1 gram of protein equals 4 calories, and 1 gram of carbs equals 4 calories. Which, what I'm trying to say, for example, in the past when I was having 160 grams of protein and I was having a lot of problems with my digestion, it took me a while to realize that if I switched those 40 grams of protein that I was having extra and that my body wasn't able to digest and it wasn't using for any good thing, and I replace them for carbs, I will then experience that my digestion will be aided with the water that the carbs and the fiber that the carbs will provide to that protein, and second, the energy provided by the carbs will be a pure energy for when it comes to training. So you should not see protein as a source of energy. In fact, the body only uses the protein as a source of energy when it has run out of any other sources like the fats and the carbs. um, but it's not like when it would be ideal if your body was clever enough to keep the muscle and burn the fat, but it doesn't do it like that. So if you don't eat enough protein and you don't eat enough calories, then what your body is gonna do is gonna start breaking down the muscle that you very hardly work in order to provide your body with energy. Because for the body, carrying extra muscle is an extra work to do. So it's not something that the body is designed to do. Okay, and now I remember the other question, and the other question was, how can someone tell the progress in the training program if they don't know their body fat? And this question came because I forgot to explain this time that the other way to calculate your protein intake is by calculating your lean muscle mass. And in fact, people who are very overweight, we should actually calculate the calorie intake based on their lean muscle mass, because otherwise they will be consuming way too much protein if you just translate their body weight when they are at their heaviest to these equations that I mentioned. So in these occasions, and as well when someone is preparing for a show or something, in these situations is where we use the calculations not based on your total body mass, but based on your lean muscle mass. That basically, how do you know that? You work out your body fat, and you then work out the percentage of your body fat, and you minus that to your total weight, and that will tell you how much lean body fat you have. For example, I am 55 kg and my body fat at the moment is 15 kg, which means that I have 8 kilos of body fat and my lean muscle mass is 46 kilograms of lean muscle mass. And now if I multiply that by 1.8, oh no, it gives me the calories that, sorry, instead of multiply for 1.8, I multiply for 18, but that should give me the calories that the protein that I should be taking. Now, you should not be the person who is in charge of calculating your own protein. That's why you have your mentor, and I will be doing another webinar that once we have gone through every single one of the macronutrients, I will put together the way that I calculate the macro split for the clients. But to answer the question, the best way to manage or to measure your progress is yourself. How do you feel on your clothes? Body measurements, which I send to the chat on the group, metrics for you to take your body circumferences on a monthly basis. I can send the document again to the chat for those of you who don't have it. And then photos. So photos are super important. Why? Because the human eye gets very used to see yourself every day, so it's very hard to see changes on your body when you are seeing yourself every day. But if you get to take a picture of you and you take that picture every 4 weeks or every 5 weeks, then it's more clear to see the small changes that your body is doing. Okay. Another thing that I said, there are some like calipers, like for you to do self measurements of these calipers that I will attach as well to this video. And these calipers will only need one of your readings, which is on your belly, and according to the number that the caliper gives you, it comes with a little matrix, and then you compare. For example, it gives you 4, so you look in the matrix and it looks 4, and then that will tell you more or less how much body fat you need. However, I keep saying, don't get too obsessed over the body fat number per se. Just look whatever measurement you are using or implementing to track your progress. Don't get obsessed over the number on the scale or on the body fat reading or whatever it is. Just see the trend. See if the trend is going up or if the trend is going down. If it's going up, we're not doing any progress. If it's going down, we are in the right direction. So I cannot highlight this enough because I get to deal with a lot of females, and I was once one of them. Sorry, my computer is just running out of battery. But I was one of them that I used to get really emotional attached to either my body fat reading or my weight on the scale. And I sometimes still do, I'm not gonna lie. But because I have an awareness that this does not relate to anything, unless I'm being objective and I'm comparing that to the process that I'm going through, then don't kill your head crying over the number that you're reading on the scale or crying over the number that you're reading on the body fat. That is just your starting point and your motivation to only get it better. So I hope that this was useful to you. Again, I cannot highlight enough that this is very basic and that we will be improving our knowledge together. Leave any comments or any questions that I didn't answer, and I will be happy to do so. Have a good day. Bye bye.